No.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
No.
So for everyone who's here, Luba, Erwin, Enid, and Michelle, we just started recording so that we can share this. We knew it's not going to be a morning on the long weekend that a lot of people would come out, but I did want to have a chance to be with Jinji and chat about action film, because he's got this amazing International Action Film Festival coming up next weekend, and I'm super excited about it. And I wanted to look more into, Jinji and I have met for coffee, and I've asked him a lot of questions. I still have so many more about what is action film? Like, is it always have to be violence? Is the key anticipating the violence, how it plays out? How is that even choreographed? I mean, it's the techniques that you need to have that. It just blows my mind. And Jinji, you are working with this all the time, and especially with your festival. So I want to hear from you. We want to learn from you.
All right. So good morning, Paula. Thank you for giving me the stage, even though I'm always awkward when I have the stage. Before we start, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Aharon Jinjihashvili. I came from Israel 8 years ago. I'm a director. I'm a producer. I'm a huge action fan. And that's kind of what led me to do Crank International Action Film Festival, which is the only and the first action film festival in Canada, which will be happening next week. And since I've started doing this, my passion and love for action only grew, because I discovered so many more elements that basically make good action, and so many great people that make the action community. And it kind of makes sense why this is the most lucrative and famous genre in cinema. And that was my little introduction. But before we start, I have a question. What is action for you? I just want to hear from you guys. I just want to know what do you consider as action? How do you define action for yourselves?
So okay, I'm gonna be the first to weigh in here. So I think there has to be some fighting, or some kind of, like, whether the fighting is metaphysical or psychological, there has to be some kind of battle going on, a conflict, something like watching Top Gun Maverick last night. It was, the American military beating what I assume was Russia, and avoiding getting shot, and having to go in and hit this target. And it's about tension, right? About raising your metabolism is heightened, like it would be if you were under threat.
Okay.
It's the thrill of feeling that. Okay, I'm going to stop. Somebody else. What is action? Who's going to be?
There's no wrong or right answer. It's just it's a very subjective.
Absolutely.
I kind of think it's the same thing, where you've got it's not cute meat. It's there's tension, there's action, not necessarily all fighting. It can be car chases, it can be people jumping off bridges, and I don't know, just somewhere there where there's action and tension, as you said, Paula. There's got to be tension in there somewhere.
Then anybody else? Okay. No, won't stress you to it. Then I'll ask you another question to follow that up. What do you think makes a good action scene?
I think we have to be invested in someone who's involved in that action. So there has to be a story that engaged me, so that I care what happens. right? So that's, if I don't care, then I could turn it off in the middle, right? I don't care what happens.
Exactly.
It has to be realistic as well. I mean, you see punching and fighting and they're missing the mark by inches. And I don't want to see, if someone's going to fight, there has to be a fight. And you have to know how to, I hate to say it, have to know how to shoot a gun so that it looks realistic, and and that I think action as well. I don't know if it qualifies, but when people are driving and they look away for so long.
Yeah, that's my pet peeve, by the way.
Oh my God.
That's my biggest pet peeve. Look at the road. Look at the road. Look at the road. Look at the road. Look at the road.
You crushed the car 5 times in 10 seconds. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The actors have to be totally fully invested in what they're doing and very skilled at what they're doing. And I know that there's probably choreographers on the set to do that, to choreograph fight scenes. And for instance, if it requires a different skill set, then you'll have somebody that's an expert, let's say, with sword fighting or whatever have you. But it's, they have to be totally invested in what they're doing to make it realistic.
I would also say sound, music, the rhythm, that probably the pace of the music probably tells you it's action or not action, more than the action itself.
Okay.
Thanks, Eve. I'm thinking I always I know the music's there and it's pumping to me information, and it's so subconscious for me, and it's huge, right?
Try to watch a fight without on mute.
Yeah.
Try to watch a fight on mute, and you're like, this is not even half as exciting.
Right.
All right. I was asking these questions. Paula, can you allow me to share a screen, please?
Sure. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Here we go. Boop.
There we go. So I will be sharing where it is. Where is it? Bum, 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 bum. Hold on. Just a sec. For some reason.
It's riveting. This is action.
The tension. I'm building the tension. I'm building the tension. All right. So I'm going to show a little slideshow. It comes. All right. Okay, everybody can see this, right?
Yes.
All right. So, 1 second. Put this over here. Put this over here. All right. So there are key elements to action. Okay. Everybody, some people think key elements are in the active part itself, but action is basically building tension and stakes and executing them with excitement. Pretty much. And then you can define it in different ways for different movies, but that's the gist of it. So what are the key elements of action? So build a character. Okay, just like was said before, if you don't care, you zone out. So you need to build a character. So throughout the whole story, the narrative, you need to build motivation. I want to go from point A to point B, and I need to get object C. In order to do that, I'm going to have to go through this journey. And then you build the obstacles, etc. But we'll get there. Then the ability, what is the background of the character? So if the character is a professor, he's not a kung fu fighter, but he's also great with a whip, you build it right away, and then you can build around that to create the realism that was mentioned before. Because if you build the rules of the world properly in the beginning, you can justify whatever you want in the reality of the movie itself. The rules are clarified in the beginning of the movie, or throughout the movie, and then you follow it. In the Matrix, if you didn't know that they can learn Kung Fu with that thing that goes in their head, it won't make sense how everybody knows Kung Fu. But then you establish that, and then you can justify whatever else, and you don't even question. All right, so we establish motivation and ability. Why and what can I do in order to get it? Next thing is an obstacle, right? And a good action movie is most of the time measured only by the value and the quality of its villain or its obstacle, right? If I was about to climb the little hill outside my backyard, that was one obstacle, but if I'm climbing an Everest, that's another obstacle. So the bigger the obstacle and the bigger the climb, the bigger the thrill, because if we establish through the motivation what is the stake, right? If John McClane doesn't kill Hans Gruber and save his wife, then his wife dies and innocent people die. That's what at stake. What's the threat? Hans Gruber and a bunch of mercenaries professionally trained with automatic weapons, and on the other hand, one cop, one gun, no shoes. So you build the stakes and you establish the threat. The bigger the threat, the bigger the stakes, the bigger the excitement. But again, it has to be in the confine of whatever was established before with the motivation and the character abilities. Am I confusing you, or you guys
No.
are following up?
Great.
Perfect sense.
All right. Next thing is geography, right? Geography is a very, very, very important aspect of action in general, whether it's fist fighting, whether it's combat jet fighting, boat fighting, race driving, anything. If you establish the geography, you will be able to follow the action. So geography is where am I, and where are the characters? How many times have you watched a movie and a bunch of people are just jumping everywhere, a bunch of people firing everywhere, but you have no idea where is what, who is who, and who is against who?
That's the worst. I just lose interest.
Yeah, and it was very common during the late 2010s with all the choppy
Yeah,
editing.
the jerky.
Yeah, the jerky camera, the choppy editing, but now things are way better. They establish geography. The best edit are the Chinese action cinema. John Woo, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung. Those people have immense time to invest in it, but they also master the geography. You know where you are, you know what you need to show in order for you to be able to follow. And this is one of the biggest keys, by the way. After the character and the motivation and the obstacle, this is the biggest key. Where am I? Where am I fighting this person? Establish it. And then all the other crew members come in, the camera, the choreographer, the stunt coordinator, the fight choreographer, and then they build around that so it will be coherent.
I'm thinking as well, a fight scene in a certain geographic area that doesn't take into account the geographic area.
Yeah.
Because you like, why are you there then? You know,
Yeah.
if I could Photoshop you out and put you here, like, why aren't you using that? Like if it's in a bathroom, you know, that's, you know, you gotta, you know, you need to smash a mirror or you need to, you know what I mean?
That's what you build around it. But first of all, you gotta establish the geography and you gotta make it clear to the audience that what you're watching is coherent. So you're not confused. Even so, who's against who? Well, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Who am I cheering for? Who I want to win? Or do I want both of them to win? But it doesn't. But you need to establish where it is, because then you're confused and instead of following the story of the fight or of the action, you're trying to figure out where the hell are you.
Yeah.
Skills, as I said before, if a character is 300 pounds and out of shape, he won't be able to do Bruce Lee kicks. Most of the time. Yeah, there are exceptions, but most of the time, okay? You need to establish that this person possesses these skills, so when they come to use later in a movie, it will make sense. Or this person does not possess these skills. He trains throughout the movie to possess them, and then when the time comes to use them, it makes sense that it does. But if it comes out of nowhere without any justification, which happens in many movies, which makes zero sense to me sometimes, it kind of takes you out of the what's the word? Anyway, there's a phrase to it, but it takes you out from the movie, and you suddenly start thinking, does that make sense? And you're not entrenched in the film. You're not in the world of the film. You're out of it, and especially in action scene. If you're out of the action scene, then you start looking at all the flaws in an action scene, which there are immensely a huge amount. But once you're inside the movie, you don't pay attention. But if something takes you out of it and you start
Yeah.
thinking logically, you're like, okay, that makes no sense. This person has been hit 700 times in his face and is still standing. That makes no sense. Why am I thinking that? Because I was taken out of the reality of the film, and then I'm in the reality of my life. So if you establish the skills of a character, you will be able to justify the use of it later on. And then, as it was said before, not just the sound, but rhythm. Rhythm it's not necessarily musical rhythm, but even in music, every chorus, it's always building up towards the crescendo, right? The same thing with an action scene. An action scene needs to evolve and increase its pace to get to the cathartic moment of our hero winning. And if it just always goes go, or slow, you get bored. And there are plenty of beautiful, amazingly choreographed action scenes that are 100% constantly go, and you're watching it, and after 3 minutes they're still going at it, but you're exhausted because there's no story in it. So it has no rhythm, it has no pacing. It doesn't evolve to the tension. It doesn't assist to the tension, the drama, the storytelling, the character development, and in the end, towards resolving the obstacle. And if you don't have that, you lost the audience. So, in that context, I wanted to go over it. In that context, I will show you a few scenes, and we can have a discussion about it and find out what is there and what is lacking. Those scenes are relatively short. They won't give you a whole narrative buildup. I can give you a little like snippet of like what the story is about, but in general, it's individual action scenes that are in Israeli cinema. Unfortunately, there are not many Israeli action scenes. They're doing more now with Fauda in Tehran, but okay. This movie called Basar Totachim, it's a Israeli zombie movie. It's about an outbreak of a zombie thing in an army unit, and now they have to fight the zombies the first time. Second. All right, everybody can see this?
Yes.
All right, watch your ears. That was interesting. Uh, now, this is not action per se. This is not John Wick, but what is the, and we covered it. What is the biggest issue with this scene?
Where are they and why are they?
Geography.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, it's like what's going on? There's action, there's zombies, there's fighting, stabbing, shooting, bunch of characters, blood, gore. Where are they? Who is where in the comparison of like each other? If there are multiple characters, right? So here we don't have, we have one character, like we have, again, in the relationship of whatever was before in the exposition of the characters, we might have one character development. But in general, there is no real emphasis on threat here, and we don't know what's going on. Because everything is kind of, it's play, I don't know the word, I'm missing the word. It's I want to hear from you. I will find those words. I want to hear from you. What do you think about this scene in the context of what we just covered in the?
But wouldn't there have been a buildup to this fight scene before, so we would get some of that context,
Yes, but
even though this is a comedy?
yes,
It's a comedy?
it's a satiric horror film. The thing is that every action scene needs to have a story. So every action scene needs to have a beginning, middle, and ending. Right? This one has a beginning, this one has a middle, one has an ending, but it lacks in a few things. It does do a good thing in other things. It builds the tension, it shows the stakes, it shows what they're up against, who they're up against, and if they're not gonna solve it, they ain't gonna make it. Or if they don't manage to defeat the zombies, they're not gonna make it. So you are able to build that, but you don't establish where they are and who they are, and you lose it. And also the camera is a lot of movement. It was the style back then. A lot of shaky, jittery camera. And then you don't establish that, what you see is not clear, you're out of it. And once you're out of it, it's very difficult to get you back into it. That's what I'm saying. Even if there was that build-up, and if there was good exposition, when you execute action poorly and it doesn't justify it properly or is not shown properly and you're confused, you're pulled out. And when you're pulled out, you need to be pulled back in. Need to be pulled back in, but you're more skeptical now. It's a very big problem in action. If you become skeptical towards what you see.
For me, it was the boots. All of a sudden there was close-up of boots. I'm like, whose boot is that? Why are we seeing just the boot right now? What am I supposed to learn from that? And then I got into that little rabbit hole and I couldn't come back so easily.
Yeah. Again, it's fun. Everybody has the other things, but like in general, that's what happens. Like I do want to hear from you all. Like what would you make in the context of what we just talked, the character, how would you establish this little clip in a better way? What would you do? Not you, Paula.
I would zoom out. I mean, there was
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's too close. Yeah, I agree with Michelle.
Okay, what else?
Yeah, I'm going to talk anyway.
Okay.
Here's the thing about zombies. I don't understand the rules of zombies. I don't understand, how do you kill them? Do they come back to life? I know that if they munch on you, you become a zombie. Like,
That's why,
are they
that's why it's a
firm-
comedy.
are the rules firm about zombies? I'm not sure.
Well, that's the idea of establishing the threat, right? What
Right.
you're up against and why. And if once those, like in 28 days later, if that any ounce of blood gets into your mouth or your eye or then you're gonna get infected.
Okay.
Right? In The Last of Us, if any of you watched it, it's that show on HBO. It's the fungi, right? If you eat something, if you get bitten by it, that fungi grows in your body. And because fungi has its own intelligent communication system that is based in under earth, and it's a basically huge grid of communication, and that's what they established, then it makes sense to you. But if you don't establish those things, again, you're confused, you don't know the rules, etc., etc., etc. All right, let's do one of my favorite movies. It's called Mivtza Antebe. It's about the kidnapping of the plane in '76 and then landing it in Sudan, if I'm not mistaken. And then Benjamin Netanyahu's brother, Jonathan
Right.
Netanyahu, that's where he died. It was one of the biggest and the most daring operation ever done. And this movie is about that. This is, to any of you who haven't watched that, it's not going to ruin everything because we all know what happened in that story. Everybody was saved, beside a few, including Jonathan Netanyahu. And this is that scene when they just arrive to where the hostages are kept. All right, that's enough. We got the idea. First of all, this movie is very special to me because I was volunteering during high school at this community center, and the person who was responsible for me, who hired me then, I saw him as an extra on this movie, and I'm like, Avner, have you been on this movie? Like, yeah, 1976. Anyway, this movie was produced by, if I'm not mistaken, Menachem Golan as well. So the action is actually pretty good. For this one, what was clear?
The environment, for sure. They did such a great job.
Yeah.
Outside, inside, the entry point,
Yeah.
the obstacles once you get in the building to getting where the hostages are.
At any point were you confused who were the bad guys and who were the good guys?
That's an interesting question. Maybe I was.
Okay.
But that's just me.
Fair. That's fair. Anybody else?
I feel like I was always looking over the shoulder of the good guys.
Okay. Hello?
Come on, folks.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Somebody phoned me in the middle. Sorry.
Oh,
about
it's
that.
okay, it's okay. So I'm asking,
But I would say, I mean, I'm not sure what the question was, but maybe the focus could have stayed a little longer on the current action that was going on rather than pull
Mhm.
away so quickly.
Yeah,
Although I did see it, and I did see that that film.
oh, cool. The thing about that, by the way, is that you pull away sometimes, or you do the quick cuts to cover lack of funding or technical issue to create the proper squib. Squib is when you get fake shot and you basically press a button. It's a wire connected, then they stick that on you. You have a little button, and once you're supposed to get shot, you press on the button, and it releases a little, and that's why it's called squib. So sometimes they do those cuts to cover mistakes, but many times when you see those cuts, they usually cover mistakes.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. That's why Liam Neeson had to jump over a fence in Taken 3, and they had to do it in 8 cuts because he's old. And he's but that's the thing, right? Like if you that's what breaks the more, like when on Taken 1, I don't know if you watched the movie, we establish the character, we establish his ability, and then when he goes and does things, it makes sense in the confine of his ability. But then 10 years after, he's still doing it, and it's visible that he has matured and he is not as nimble and able, but they're still doing it, and it makes no sense. So it's like, okay, how do we build up the action to make, so A, we're gonna cut so many times around every punch, so it will be extremely kinetic and confusing, and B, we're gonna make every action he does, no matter what, exciting by cutting it 700 times. So we masking something, either technical or character or ability. That's the biggest issue in older American cinema. Now they are being more aware and attentive to how they build action scenes, especially because a lot of stunt coordinators and action directors have become the leading forces of action movies, the biggest blockbusters, and they know how to make something like that look good. And the person who does it make him look good as well.
And they have the money to make it look good.
Not always. So
Really?
it's not always about the money. It's about, so here's the thing. I've been talking to a lot of directors and a lot of stunt coordinators because of the festival. And one of the biggest things I've heard was usually they do the action at the end of the day, which is the wrong thing because that's where everything can go wrong the most. But because making action is not taken as it doesn't give the respect as like, oh, creating the drama and the acting and allowing the character to evolve, then the attitude, at least it was, now it's way better. The attitude was, yeah, we can do the action in the end, and then you see that the fight is not satisfying, or the conclusion is not, the build-up is not concluded in match. Like you build up a huge enemy, but the conclusion is like, oh, but he was defeated like this. So those little things are hopefully they're going to be in the past, but right now that's what they are. Hopefully I'm making sense and I'm not confusing you all.
Yeah, no.
All right, next clip is from Fauda, and this will be mainly on how it was filmed, how were the character build up, and they actually did a really good job here by building a character through the fight. So that scene was actually very well made.
So good. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but it was so good.
So I can explain. One, you know where it is, and it doesn't go through in. You see the movement, you see the fight, you see the characters, you see both of them. So you establish the geography and the characters in the frame while you're watching it. So you're always on them. That's one. Two, you understand the dynamics. On the first fight was a man against a woman. You understand the dynamics, and suddenly it goes into a situation where you want to build a character. So you use that fight to build a character. What do? You show that she is not going to tap. She's not going to give up, even though she's been strangled and it's almost like the end of it. And if she doesn't tap, she will pass out. She won't give up. So you establish a character, right? On the second fight, the same thing. I will translate. The instruction was only absorption and only to the body, so no hit in the face. So you establish those two characters, and once the other one punched him in the face, you see that there is a struggle. I have never watched the show even, but I know that there's a struggle, a conflict, something to be resolved. There is an issue there, and one of the characters wants to execute more violence on the other person. So those are like the key elements in that specific scene that build a character, build the geography, show the skills that are confined in reality. You know that these people are army people. They're not doing double-legged jump like Van Damme in Bloodsport. They're humans. So you're not taken out of it and asking, and you're not questioning, are they able to do it? So those are the main key elements in that specific scene that make it good.
Cool.
Any questions?
No.
All right, next assignment. Everybody gonna go, and in 5 minutes you're gonna come back and you're gonna do an action scene. I'm joking. It's a joke. I will show you one last clip, a very short one. This one is from one of my favorite movies in my festival. It's called The Art of Crossing. It's a Polish movie. It's a Polish short film for The Art of Crossing. For some reason, there we go. Just gonna show the first minute and a half.
And over he goes.
So what do we see in this movie that like makes it so good? In my opinion, it's one of my favorite movies in this festival. They establish the conflict right on get-go. They establish the character right on get-go. They establish that it's not necessarily super realistic. The audio establishes it's kind of like light-hearted. It's not tense. It's like it's very like upbeat. So all those elements kind of build, and that's what I was saying. It doesn't have to be in a confine of an hour and a half. An action scene can be a story of its own, and that's one of the main things to create. An action scene doesn't have to be kung fu. Action scene can be the last. Everybody watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Mhm.
Long time ago.
I'll take it as a yes. So in the end of the movie, we see Lee Van Cleef, Clint Eastwood, and I
What's
forgot
his
name? Yeah, I forgot his name. The finger snap guy. The guy who plays the ugly. They stand in a circle, and it's gonna be somebody's gonna draw a gun, and somebody's gonna die, someone's gonna survive. Sergio Leone, who's a genius of cinematography and mathematics, divided that with Morricone, who's a composer, to build the tension with the music and the cuts in mathematical way that will make sense. Cut exactly on the same time, this time, show this, show that. You see nothing beside people standing and waiting for 5 minutes, and it still keeps you engaged. The tension is rising. Of course, the music really helps because it's one of the most genius compositions in cinema history. And then nothing happens, and in the end, somebody is shooting, boom. The release is very, very, very subtle, but what I'm saying is to create action, you don't have to get 2 people fighting on a bridge or a huge army saving hostages. Creating action is building the tension and the stake. And if you can do that, then you can add more stuff to it. But if you don't have that, you can add as much water as you want into a grinder, but in the end, it will just grind water. And that's my 5 cents on action. Any questions?
You make me want to go down the path of watching all these films totally and really thinking more about the things that you've presented today, Jinji. It's you made me appreciate it so much more.
Thank you. Those are things that I'm still finding out myself. I'm not an action. I'm not a stunt coordinator. I'm a stunt person. I directed maybe a couple action little things, but this specific art form is one of the more complex art forms in cinema.
And I think really at the heart of storytelling too.
Yeah.
Well, and no pun intended, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Although I think the pun was intended. Michelle, want to?
Michelle, are you a film lover?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
My biggest thing is continuity. You know,
Yeah.
in one scene, the glass is half full, and the next scene, it's a quarter full, and the next scene, it's a half full. And
Oh, you're the person that notices that. I just get so absorbed. I don't notice those things.
you know,
can-
the hair isn't right, and then it's right, and then it isn't right. And
Oh,
I do notice those on the first watch.
Michelle would. That's Michelle. She would
Yeah.
totally notice all those things.
Yeah.
In fact, if you want to hire someone for continuity, she would be the person.
Done.
Done.
Done. You hired Michelle.
No, I
Um,
love movies.
It's
Yeah.
an interesting thing because a lot of the times that actually happens because you are taken out from the movie. You're thinking about something else than the plot and the character, and it's go. And when you start doing that, you notice the hair, you notice the glass, and you notice cigarette, and you notice the fact that he's suddenly wearing a completely new set of clothes, even though he was just like drenched in rain. And you have like, what the hell is going on? But when you're like, have you watched Inception,
Oh, yeah.
Titanic, I don't know what else, Jurassic Park, those movies have hundreds of mistakes, but because the storytelling and the structure is so brilliant, you barely notice those.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm assuming, but maybe you watch movies differently, Michelle, but like usually that's like one of the biggest reasons why people start paying attention to mistakes. Because they're not paying attention to the movie.
So being a theater person, if there's actually one thing that's out of place, that's what the audience is going to notice. So there's a lot of attention to detail paid to the set and costumes, because with an audience, especially in a smaller theater, being so close to the audience, that is the first thing they're going to notice. And
Right.
but I think action too. I mean, I watch a lot of medical shows that are really well done. In the old days, they weren't. It was pretty fake, but New Amsterdam and ER come to mind. I consider those action because if you're in the operating theater, with the tension building and all the instruments going, I know the actors, their biggest fear is not getting the lines down and having to do retakes in those particular scenes.
Yeah. High stress scenes.
Well, I think that's where some of the continuity comes from, is the multiple takes and then editing it all together.
Yeah. I just actually finished post-production of a show. Me and the editor were sitting, okay, we either can go with this or we can go with this. We can go with the mistake that looks good or the mediocre shot that looks okay. What do we go? And that's the constant struggle. And sometimes you go with a mistake because the rule of cool is looks cooler. We want to use that. The rule of cool wins most of the
The
time.
rule of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in The Godfather, in one of the first scenes, there was a cat on the set and kind of wandered on unexpectedly, and Marlon Brando just picks it up and takes it in his arms, and they left it in.
Yeah. Many.
Good story. Oh my goodness. What can we look forward to at Crank International Action Film Festival next weekend?
Well, our motto and our logline is this. So it's the ultimate action movie experience. So we have one of Canada's best movies opening the festival, which is called The Fight Machine. It's about bare knuckle fist fight fights that were done on the underbelly of crime and whatever. And it's actually a story about two young men who try to succeed in it, try to take their place in the world. And it's directed by Andrew Hunt, who will be there, and then they'll be doing a Q&A with Wayne Wells, who also fight choreographed and stunt choreographed the movie. And the next day, we have, I think the part that I'm proud the most, that I put together a panel of, I think Canada's 4 out of 10 best like action people in Canada. And there's a lot of action people stuff happening here. We have James Sled, who worked on projects like American Gods and the Avengers Endgame, and We have Cotton Mather, who worked on The Long Kiss for Goodnight and Terminator 2 and a bunch of other James Cameron movies. And again, we have James Wells. We have Jamie Jones, who's the name in stunt communities. Like is a staple in action in Canada. And we have that's a panel. They're going to be talking about their clips, their action, their experience, sharing it, and make it more sense of the action aspect in cinema than I do. I am okay. I'm pretty okay versed in it, but they are expert. If you listen to them talk about action, your jaw would drop. Mine did. Mine did. And after that, I have a screening of the first Finnish Iranian movie. That movie was filmed at Tehran. It's a brilliant action movie. Really, 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 really well made. Not just the fights, but the whole, like, the plot really complemented by the fights and not the other way. And after that, the main event, which is the short films. We're going to show 11 in international short films.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're really like that's again, I pride myself in quality. The people will come, but as long as you keep the quality there and the shorts are top notch, high quality.
And this is the second year,
yes,
right, of the festival, so it's going to be a growing phenomena.
Hopefully, yeah.
That's
what we're aiming at. Yeah.
Wonderful. I am super looking forward to it. I can feel I've been like thinking about it so much. I'm really looking forward to going and attending as many as I can see. And I asked Jinji, could he give us a code that would allow us to cut some of the costs of going to the festival? And he was so generous in giving me a code. So I'm gonna tell everyone now what that code is. If you're ready, jot this down. If you go to sign up for your pass to Crank's International Action Film Festival, CRANK, Crank Shalom, SHALOM, Crank Shalom 2023. That's the code. Crank Shalom 2023 will get you 40% off your pass. So right after this, I'm going to go and order my pass using the code, and I'm so excited to dig into some of this fantastic movie making experience.
It's fun. It's like I'm there as a fan, to be honest. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm there as a fan. These people are my heroes. So wow. I would be happy to see you all, because they really need as much exposure and as much attention as possible, because in the end of the day, they are the future. Like, especially the short film segment. They are the future.
Very exciting. Any other questions for Jinji? Well, we have him here with us. You must be so busy. And you have I shared this on our Temple members page. Jinji's got a project in Hamilton for the next couple months. He's looking for a studio space to rent to be doing his work here in Hamilton for the next couple of months. So if anyone knows of a place, just give a shout out and I'll get that information to him. Next week on Breakfast Club, we have a series of 4 Next Generation Breakfast Club. That's my favorite Breakfast Club, actually. No ill will to this one, of course. It's our youth, and they are, like you said, they are our future, and what they're doing, what they're passionate about is so exciting. So next week's, and we have the Appel families here with us, Luba and Eve. Their daughter, eldest daughter, Misha, is the host of Next Generation Breakfast Club. She's going to be talking with some of our members, including herself, who have pursued legal careers, what they're doing and what that path has been like, what they're most excited about. My own stepson will be in that one. He is a senior counsel for Fender Guitars.
Oh.
international. So a little bit about what is it like? What kind of work, legal work do you do when you work for Fender? Well, you know, you talk to famous musicians to get the rights to have their signature guitar music clip to promote their guitar. So it's really interesting, that experience, and 3 other legal eagles on that one too. So we're really excited about Breakfast Club this spring. Thank you so much to Jinji for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. It was
Thank you so much.
very fascinating.
Thank you for hearing me bubble and mumble.
It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Aharon. I really, really always enjoy your company and the passion of what you do in life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and all the best with the festival. Take
Thanks.
care and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Care.
Yes, to you as
Thank
well.
you.
Happy Pesach.
Care.